So good morning, guys. Good morning, students. How are you? Good morning, SK Sahu, Parth Rana, Meenakshi, Divya Kumari, Sankaran, and every one of you. So, students, today we are starting a new chapter, chapter number 4 on audit evidence. So, students, we have been reading about audit evidence since chapter 1. We have been reading about this term audit evidence since the very beginning of these lectures, since we started studying auditing, and we have understood that outcome of an audit is in the form of opinion of auditor, which is expressed through audit report. And how does an auditor form his opinion? His opinion is based upon audit evidence. So you can very much understand, students, that how important this concept of audit evidence is, because it is on the basis of audit evidence that the auditor is finally going to draw conclusions and ultimately express his opinion. That is why audit evidence becomes very important. So you can understand it in this way also. When auditor is auditing financial statements, most of the time what he is doing, he is obtaining audit evidence in one form or another. He is performing audit procedures to get to obtain audit evidence, to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, because it is ultimately the audit evidence on the basis of which he would be uh, drawing conclusions and finally basing his opinion. So students, you now understand the importance, the significance of this whole concept of audit evidence. Yes, guys. Is it clear to you guys what audit evidence, why audit evidence is so important? So that is very important for you to understand what is the significance, what is the importance of audit evidence. Only then you would be able to understand the full import of this chapter. So students, this is also one of the lengthiest chapters in your modules, not only in module 1 but in both the modules, in module 1 and 2 together, taken together. So the chapter runs into, I think, about 150 pages. So you have to keep a little bit patience, students, while understanding this chapter and while learning about all the things. So this chapter is based upon many essays, students. So you are able to see the screen, guys. You are able to see the whiteboard. So this chapter is based upon many essays. So these are essays, essay 500, which relates to audit evidence generally. What is its meaning? What it deals with? What are the sources of audit evidence? Uh, and all other general things pertaining to audit evidence. And essay 501 relates to some specific considerations of certain selected items, like when an auditor attends physical inventory count, so what he has to do. So such things are dealt with within essay 501 apart from other matters also. So it deals with some specific considerations of certain selected items. Essay 505 deals with external confirmations, how to send external confirmations. So we have been reading about external confirmations, that an auditor sends external confirmations to third parties. But what are the various types? How an auditor sends external confirmation? So this is dealt in essay 505. And essay 510, initial audit engagements. When an auditor accepts an engagement for the first time, so what are his duties in relation to opening balances? So this is dealt in essay 510. Then comes essay 520, which relates to analytical procedures. So it deals with what is the meaning of analytical procedures, how these procedures are carried out, what are different types of it, and how if the auditor finds something unusual, how he has to proceed further in regard to these matters. And essay 530 deals with audit sampling. So it deals with various aspects of audit sampling, how a sample is obtained, what are different approaches to sampling, and what are different methods of obtaining samples, and all related concepts with it. What are deviations? What are tolerable rate of deviation? What is actual rate of deviation? What is tolerable misstatement? All these things are dealt in essay 530. Then comes essay 550. So in essay 550, we shall be studying about related parties transactions, and what is the duty of auditor uh, in relation to related party transactions, and how auditor obtains audit evidence in relation to it, what are his responsibilities. And lastly, we shall also be reading essay 610, when an auditor chooses to rely upon the work of internal auditor. So what are his responsibilities? What are the various aspects relating to it? So we shall be covering this also, essay 610. So students, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are total 8 essays which are covered in this very chapter. So students, you are getting now, and you have probably got an overall picture of the chapter. So before we move further, students, we first try to understand the meaning and definition of audit evidence. At the first stage, we shall try to understand the meaning and definition of audit evidence. So audit evidence, as per essay 500, students, it means the information which is used by an auditor. So I am breaking the definition into three parts. So it is information. Basically, it is information used by an auditor to draw conclusions on basis of which his opinion is based. So students, you understand the definition of audit evidence, what it is. It is information. So it can be any information. It can be information which is obtained from accounting records or any other information also. So but anyway, it is information. So audit evidence is information used by an auditor to draw conclusions. So he uses this information which he has obtained by performing procedures to draw conclusions on which auditor's opinion is based. So he uses this information to draw conclusions on the basis of which ultimately his opinion is based. So simple definition, you have to learn it as it is. It would help you in many things. And remember that information can be obtained from accounting records. It can be the information which is obtained from the accounting records, and it can be some other sort of information which is not related to accounting records. So clear students, audit evidence की definition, have you understood the definition, the meaning of audit evidence? So again I am repeating it. Audit evidence is the information used by an auditor to draw conclusions on which auditor's opinion is based. So do not forget, sorry, that it is information and it is used by the auditor to draw what? To draw conclusions. To draw conclusions on which ultimately auditor's opinion is based. So this is the meaning and definition of audit evidence. So you have to remember this definition as it is. So students, before we move to other aspects of audit evidence, how what are its sources, or what can be its forms, whether it can be oral, whether it can be visual, whether it can be documentary, or from what sources it is obtained, or what do we mean by sufficient appropriate audit evidence. We shall first understand one topic of assertions. So students, this term also, assertions, we have been reading about it since chapter 1. So many of you were asking since chapter 1, Sir, tell us in detail about assertions. What are assertions? So I had given you a basic idea of what assertions mean. So now today we shall be understanding in detail about what are assertions in context of auditing and what do these mean, what are their various types. So students, from a very common sense point of view, uh, from a layman's point of view, you can understand that everything stated in financial statements is an assertion of some form or another. जो भी बैलेंस शीट या प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस या फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में मैनेजमेंट की तरफ से रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा है, वो सब कुछ असर्शन ही है। स्टूडेंट्स, आप इस बात को, एक तो ये फंडामेंटल लाइन अपने दिमाग में बिठा लें, लाइक कैपिटल, लाइक ट्रेड पेबल्स, like trade receivables, PPE, cash and bank balances, and purchases, sales, other income, all expenses, all disclosures. These are all assertions. These are all assertions. Now, what basically assertion is? Assertion use, students, is derived from the word to assert. Now, when we say someone is asserting something, we say that he is saying something with belief, something with conviction, something with force. Say like say I am asserting something, so it signifies, it means that I am believing in those things. I genuinely believe that those things are true. So I genuinely believe that those things are valid. So this is the meaning of assert. So from word assert, the term assertions is derived. So assertions are basically representations by management. What are these? These are representations by management. So assertions are representations by management. So this is very important, students, that when we talk about assertions, it means that these have been made by the management, that these have been represented by management. These do not belong to auditor. The auditor only tests these assertions. Agar students say sales are reflected in the financial statements of rupees 50 crores, so the company is saying, the management is saying that my sales are 50 crores. The auditor is not saying. So you have to make a fine distinction between these two things. The management is saying that my sales are 50 crores. Now the auditor is going to test this assertion, is going to test this statement. So that is why it becomes important from the point of view of an auditor. So always remember that assertions are representations by management. So remember, students, sometimes we make mistakes, we make silly mistakes in exams, and we give wrong answers to MCQs on this aspect. Say in MCQ, it is written that assertions are made by, say 4 options are given, then many students take option which states that these are representations by auditor, because वो क्योंकि वो कैजुअली पढ़ा होता है तो वो सोचते हैं assertion था चैप्टर में, और हाँ तो ऑडिटर तो डेफिनेटली assertion से कंसर्न्ड. So but assertions are belong to management, these are owned by management. अगर मैनेजमेंट कह रही है कि, अगर कंपनी कह रही है कि सेल 50 करोड़ है, तो ये कंपनी की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है. कंपनी कह रही है सेल 50 करोड़ है, ऑडिटर तो उसको टेस्ट करेगा. So this is the finer point of distinction which you have to understand. So assertions are representations by management embodied in financial statements. Embodied का क्या मतलब है स्टूडेंट्स? Embodied which are present in financial statements, which are there in financial statements. Like we were talking about sales, so sales are present in financial statements, where these are present in statement of profit and loss. Or when we are talking about trade receivables, so these are contained in financial statements. Okay, so assertions are representations by management embodied in financial statements, explicit or otherwise. So what is explicit, students? Explicit means which is very much evident, which is clear from seeing the thing itself. Like we are saying that the balance in PPE is say 50 lakhs. So it means that historical cost less depreciation value of PPE is 50 lakhs. So it is an explicit assertion. Now something which is not stated clearly, which is not stated expressly, that is known as implied assertion. What we can derive from it. So like in case of PPE, if depreciation has been charged, then we mean we can imply that items of PPE were used for the purpose of business of the company. So this is an implied assertion. This is implicit in it. It is not directly written there, but it is implicit in it. So assertions can be explicit or otherwise. It can be implicit also. These can be understood also. These can be derived also. So assertions are representations by management embodied in financial statements, explicit or otherwise, which are used by the auditor. Now that is important. These are used by the auditor to identify potential misstatements. So clear स्टूडेंट्स? आप स्टूडेंट्स अभी हम मॉड्यूल पे भी आएंगे, आप इस डेफिनेशन को अपने दिमाग में बिठा लें। आपको ये डेफिनेशन एज इट इज लर्न करनी है। और एसर्शंस किन किन चीजों से रिलेट करती हैं, कितने डिफरेंट टाइप्स की हैं, व्हाट आर इट्स डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ एसर्शंस, टू व्हाट थिंग्स एसर्शंस रिलेट, all these things have to be clearly understood and remembered by you। क्योंकि स्टूडेंट्स इस टॉपिक पे और इसके रिलेटेड एरिया से 3 4 6 नंबर का हमेशा पेपर में कुछ ना कुछ होता है, वेदर इट इज in the form of MCQs, whether it is in the form of correct, incorrect, or other things, or maybe a case study can be totally assertion based. So remember, students, assertions are, again, the definition of assertions. Assertions are representations by management. So never forget this. These are representations by management. Management is making these representations. The company, the entity, the organization is making these representations. And these are contained in financial statements. These are embodied in financial statements. These can be explicit or not explicit. These can be clearly stated or not clearly stated. Okay, so these can be explicit or otherwise, and these are used by the auditor. These are not made by the auditor. So that is the important distinction. So these are used by the auditor to identify potential misstatements, to identify those misstatements which can exist. So what is the meaning of potential? Probable, which can exist, which can be there. So there can be misstatements either due to errors or due to frauds which can exist. So the auditor uses these assertions to identify those potential misstatements. So clear students? थोड़ा सा आपको assertions का overall meaning समझ में आ गया? Have you got a broader understanding of what do we mean by assertions? So many of you were finding it hard to digest the meaning of assertion since chapter 1, and there were many queries. So today all your doubts are going to be solved as far as assertions are concerned. So clear guys? Assertions. Now we go to your module and see what does your module say about assertions. So first we have understood the concept broadly, generally, then we are going to your module 2 to understand in detail about assertions. Yes. So students, we are at this is the page number, we are at page 4.23 of your module. Page 4.23 of your module. We are at page 4.23 of your module. So first of all, again, we will see the definition of assertions. So students, why I am repeating this again and again? I am repeating this so that at least when this lecture is finished, at least this definition, this meaning of assertions is established in your mind and you remember it right away, right in this lecture. You do not need to have remember again by reading your module. You can remember right away, right here. You can learn it right here. Yes, module 1 we are talking about, Gaurav. Chapter we are in chapter 4 of module 1. So assertions refer to representations by management. So again, this is the important thing. These are representations by management. Always remember, these are representations by management, and these can be explicit or otherwise. These can be clearly stated, which are apparent from seeing the financial statements, or these can be implied, these can be hidden, okay, that are embodied in financial statements. So what is word embodied? Embodied means which are present, which are contained, in financial statements, which form part of financial statements. So that are embodied in financial statements as used by the auditor. Now how these are relevant to the auditor? Auditor only uses them. He does not make them. So that is the difference, students. That you have to understand. That management makes the assertions and the auditor uses them. Management states those assertions and the auditor uses them. Auditor does not make those assertions. Okay. So these are used by the auditor to consider the different types of potential misstatements that may occur. So these are used by the auditor to identify different type of potential misstatements which can occur, which have a probability of occurring. So to consider different type of potential misstatements that may occur. So this is the definition. This is again broken into 3 parts, and you have to learn, you have to remember the meaning, the definition as it is. No scope of changing it, or no scope of writing it in your own words. You have to learn it as it is. Okay. Yes, Swati, assertions are not only influenced. These are it is management's child. Obviously, obviously they would be influencing. So when somebody is making something, when somebody is asserting something, then obviously he is in a position to influence. But remember that these are not only influenced, these are made by the management. So assertions relate, students, assertions relate to 3 things. 3 things. These all 3 things also we have been learning since chapter 1. We have also learnt about these things in chapter 3. So what are those 3 things? These 3 things are transactions and events. Number 2, account balances. And number 3, disclosures. Yes, students, is the screen not visible to you? Manish is saying that screen is blurred. Yes, Manish, please check that screen is visible. So it is okay from our side, students. There may be some problem, connectivity issue at your end. So assertions relate to 3 things, students: transactions or events, account balances और disclosures. जैसा कि हम चैप्टर 1 से पढ़ते आए हैं स्टूडेंट्स. नाउ these are these pertain to 3 things: number 1, number 2, number 3. So first category is class of transactions and events. Second category is account balances. And third category is presentation and disclosure. Okay. So class of transactions and events क्या है students? The transactions which are happening, which ultimately lead to, which ultimately may lead to creation of account balances. Like say a company is purchasing raw material, so it is entering into a transaction. A company is incurring some expenditure, so it has entered into some transaction. A company has paid wages, so it has entered into a transaction. A company has incurred machinery repair expenditure, it has entered into a transaction. So assertions, which there is one category of assertions which relate to class of transactions. So these are, you can basically understand simply as P&L items, profit and loss items. So the assertions which relate to profit and loss items, you can generally mean to understand that these relate to transactions and events. These relate to class of transactions and events. And number 2 is, second category is account balances. So what is reflected in balance sheet are all account balances. So trade receivables, debtors, these are account balances. Figure of loans and advances, this is also account balances. Trade payables, these are also account balances. Balance in capital account, this is also account balances. PPE, this is also account balances. So these are basically balance sheet items. So assertions relating to balance sheet items. And third category is presentation and disclosure, which relates to how the things are presented and disclosed in the balance sheet. So there are different type of assertions relating to transactions. There are different type of assertions relating to account balances, and there are different type of assertions relating to presentation and disclosure. Some of the assertions are common in all these categories, some are different. Okay, so but these are easy to understand, but you have to understand the distinction between one point and another, difference between one point and another. So clear, students? So first of all, we shall be talking about assertions about class of transactions and events for the period under audit. Assertions about class of transactions and events for the period under audit. So here we are talking about assertions basically of regarding profit and loss items. So first assumption is occurrence. So what is occurrence, students? So students, also you have to remember all these names. आपको ये सब नाम भी याद रखने हैं और इनका मीनिंग भी याद रखना है. जैसा है इसको स्टूडेंट्स assertions वाले टॉपिक को when the lecture is finished, you devote one complete day on this topic of assertions. आपका वो आपके माइंड में पूरी की पूरी तरह it would get cemented, it would get established. Immediately after finishing lecture, you can say that we will finish this topic of assertion within say 4-5 hours. So assertions are first assertion is occurrence. So what is occurrence, students? Occurrence का क्या मतलब है? Occurrence means that the transaction has occurred and it belongs to the company. Like say company has shown sales of 10 crores in its financial statements. So what the auditor is concerned about? The auditor is concerned about that whether sales of 10 crore has in fact taken place during the year. Whether sales of 10 crore has taken place during the year and whether it belongs to the company. Whether sale is not fake, whether sale is genuine, whether it has actually taken place. So he would be obtaining evidence about those things. He would be testing about those things. So he would be gaining evidence whether sales in fact have occurred or not. So this type of assertion we call as occurrence. Okay. So this type of assertion we call as occurrence. Now second assertion is completeness. Now what is completeness? Completeness means that the item which we are testing, it is all things in respect of it have been recorded. Like say students, we are talking about sales, then all the sales which should have been recorded has in fact been recorded in financial statements and nothing is left out. It means say at the end of year some goods have been dispatched but invoice has not been raised. So this type of thing should not be there. All sales which should be recorded in financial period under audit, that has been recorded. This we understand by the term completeness. This we understand by the term completeness. So first thing we had learned occurrence, second thing we had learned completeness. So what is the difference between two? Occurrence means that sales have in fact taken place. The auditor is concerned that that transaction has in fact taken place and it relates to the company. Like कोई परचेज ट्रांजैक्शन है तो परचेज के बिल के ऊपर कंपनी का नाम लिखा है, वो बिल कंपनी के नाम से है. So it would show that purchases belong to the company. So that is the meaning of occurrence. That the purchases were in fact made by the company and these belong to company. So this is occurrence. And second thing is completeness. So all the transactions which we are talking about, all these transactions which needed to be recorded have in fact been recorded. So this is the meaning of completeness. And third thing is accuracy. So what is accuracy? So accuracy means when the transaction is recorded, it has been recorded correctly. The amount entered is correct and other aspects entered are also correct. So 50,000 का बिल है तो it is entered as for rupees 50,000. So accuracy, amounts and other data relating to recorded transactions have been recorded appropriately. So the entry has been made correctly. So when the auditor is checking, when the auditor is testing this aspect, it means he is checking accuracy. Okay. And number 4 is cutoff. So what is cutoff? Cutoff means that students, in accounting and auditing, we normally use this term cutoff. So cutoff has to be understood in the context of cutoff period. So like the company has prepared the accounts for year 22-23, then cutoff date is 31st March 2023. So 31st March 23 is cutoff date. So for the auditor, cutoff date is important. That is 31st March 23, because he has to see all the transactions happening within this period. Because his opinion would be relating to transactions happening within this period, within the period from 1st April 22 to March 23. So March 23 would be cutoff date. Okay. And fifth is classification. So transaction has been recorded in proper account. It should go to proper head of account. Say like an expenditure of machinery repair, which should go to machinery repair, it should not go to machinery account. It should be debited in machinery account. So when the auditor is checking these type of things, he is checking about classification. So he is checking about classification. So students, there are 5 type of assertions relating to transactions and events. There are 5 type of assertions relating to transactions and events. So you would have to remember all the 5 names and meaning of all these things. So what are the 5 names? So remember these 5 names right here in this lecture, students. So the 5 names are occurrence, completeness, accuracy, cutoff, and classification. So you can make any sort of acronym, whatever you like. Like you can remember it like this also, OCACC. But these have to be remembered. Because students, exam में there is a great probability that question is asked from these areas. As I've been telling you, always 4 marks, 5 marks, 2 MCQs or case study based questions or descriptive questions are asked from this area. So remember that assertions relating to transactions are of 5 types. These are of 5 forms. Number 1 is occurrence, number 2 is completeness, number 3 is accuracy, number 4 is classification, and number 5 is cutoff. Okay, so स्टूडेंट्स इन पांचों का आपको मीनिंग अच्छी तरह से समझ में आ गया? I am going to repeat again the meaning of all these 5 terms. So occurrence means that transaction has in fact occurred and it belongs to the company. It belongs to the entity. That is the meaning of occurrence. Okay. And completeness means that all the transactions which needed to be recorded have in fact been recorded, that no transaction is left out. Okay, like I had given you the example of sales. So if the auditor is testing, the auditor is verifying completeness assertion, he would be verifying that no sales is left out which needed to be recorded in this period, which needed to be recorded in 2023 and which has not been recorded. If he is checking this, then he is testing completeness. Then he is testing completeness. And third is accuracy. So whatever the entry is made in books of accounts from the source document, from the invoice, say from the purchase invoice or sales invoice, it is entered accurately. The amount entered is correct, and the other things entered pertaining to those invoice, like invoice number, name of party, these are also correct. So this is accuracy. And number 4 is cutoff, that the entry is, that the transactions is recognized in correct accounting period, that all the transactions are recognized in the correct accounting period. So let us say we are talking about year 22-23. So all the sales which need to be recorded and which fall in this cutoff in this period have been recorded in the correct accounting period. Okay, and last is classification. Classification means that the amount has been that the transaction has been classified in proper account. There is the transaction has not been recorded in some wrong account, in some wrong head of account. The head of account is proper. So that is classification. Okay. Now we discuss about assertions about account balances at the period end. So first we were talking about assertions regarding transactions. So I told you these pertain to profit and loss items. Now we are talking about assertions pertaining to account balances. So these pertain to balance sheet items, various account balances like trade receivables, like trade payables, all current assets, current liabilities, fixed assets. These are all account balances. So students, whatever is reflected in the balance sheet in the form of account balances is naturally a product of transactions which have happened during the year. So obviously if sales had taken place, then you sold goods to somebody and the amount is recoverable from that person. Your customer has to pay the amount back to the company in respect of goods which he has purchased from the company. So, but in case of account balances, we name these assertions differently. So when we talk about assertions pertaining to account balances, we give them different nomenclature. We label them differently. Okay. So in respect of account balances, we talk about existence. We do not say that this account balance has occurred. We do not say that trade receivable has occurred. We say that trade receivable exists, whether it exists or not. That whether this debtor exists or not. तो बात वही है, लेकिन उसको उसका नाम डिफरेंट है. Its name is different. So in respect of balances, in respect of account balances, the assertion, first assertion is existence. So what does existence means? Existence means that that asset exists, that liability exists. Or in respect of capital, the capital interest exists. Like students, say फिक्स्ड एसेट्स पीपीई बैलेंस शीट में 25 लाख का आ रहा है. तो what is the assertion? Assertion is that these items in fact exist physically. कि उतनी प्लांट एंड मशीनरी या उतनी पीपीई आइटम्स 25 लाख की जिनकी हिस्टोरिकल कॉस्ट लेस डेप्रिसिएशन है वो एग्जिस्ट करती हैं. these are in existence physically. So we do not say that these have occurred, although these are product of occurring of some transactions, but we while testing assertions in relation to account balances, we say that this balance exists, whether this balance exists or not. So when I am talking about trade payables, creditors, so I would be seeing whether this creditor, whether this trade payable exists at first instance or not. So in respect of account balances, we talk about existence, not occurrence. Okay, clear students? So in respect of account balances, we talk about existence. And second thing, second assertion relating to rights and to account balances is rights and obligations. Now, what are rights and obligations, students? Right means understand that rights always exist in respect of assets. And obligations would be there in respect of liabilities. Say if a trade receivable is outstanding in my books of accounts of a company, if trade receivables are outstanding in financial statements, then what does this mean? This means that the company has a right to recover money from that debtor, from that trade receivable. Similarly, if some trade payable is outstanding, if some creditor is outstanding in the financial statements, then it means that the company has obligation to pay money to that creditor. The company has an obligation. It has got a legal obligation to pay the money to that trade creditor, to that trade payable. Similarly, say if you have got fixed assets or PPE items in your financial statements, then it means it is an asset. So it means that company has a right in these assets. So the company owns these assets. That is why it is having a right in these assets. So in respect of account balances, we talk about rights and obligations. Rights about assets and obligation about liabilities. So this is the second assertion about account balances. Clear, students? Now we go to third assertion pertaining to account balances. It is completeness. So completeness is common. It was there in assertions pertaining to transactions, and it is there in assertions pertaining to account balances also. So meaning of completeness is same what was there in assertions relating to transactions. So what does completeness means? Completeness means all the balances that should have been recorded have been recorded. कि अगर ट्रेड रिसीवेबल्स 50 लाख के फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में आ रहे हैं तो 50 लाख के ही होने चाहिए थे. ये नहीं है कि वो 60 लाख के इनफैक्ट हैं और 10 लाख के फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट से रिफ्लेक्ट ही नहीं हो रहे. कुछ सेल्स जो है बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स के बाहर की है, इट इज आउट ऑफ द बुक्स. So this is the meaning of completeness. So the meaning of completeness is same in all assertions. Completeness means that all things which needed to be recorded have in fact been recorded. So the meaning is common, and this form of assertion is also common in all the three categories of assertions. So we have done three type of assertions as regards account balances are concerned. First is existence, second is rights and obligations, and third is completeness. Now we shall move to fourth assertion. Fourth assertion is valuation and allocation in relation to account balances. So what is valuation and allocation? What does it mean, students? Valuation means that account balances in financial statements are valued properly. Like say when we are talking about inventories, so it is also a form of account balance. It is an asset. It is an example of current asset. So it is valued properly. Or say when we are talking about trade receivables, then it is also an account balance. So it is valued properly. So how it would be valued properly? Say whether provision for doubtful debts has been made or not. So if provision of doubtful debts is not made and it was required to be made, then it is not valued properly. So this is the meaning of valuation, that all the account balances should be valued properly. And what is allocation? Allocation, as you know, students, like you have to allocate certain expenses or certain amounts, like you allocate depreciation in respect of PPE. So this is the meaning of valuation and allocation. So there are four types of assertions pertaining to account balances. These assertions are existence, rights and obligations, and completeness, and valuation and allocation. Okay. So now we talk about third category, that is assertions about presentation and disclosure. So स्टार्टिंग में स्टूडेंट्स मैंने आपको बताया था कि assertions तीन चीजों से रिलेट करती हैं. One thing is class of transaction and events. Second thing is account balances, and third thing is about presentation and disclosure. So पहले वाली दो कैटेगरीज की assertions we have understood, and third category की assertions now we are going to understand. So third category relates to assertions pertaining to presentation and disclosure. So again, these it is a mixture of what we had studied in respect of account balances and transaction and classes of transactions. So assertions about presentation and disclosures are: first assertion is occurrence and rights and obligations. Okay, so occurrence, students remember, occurrence class of transactions में थी और rights and obligations account balances में था. So उन दोनों को मिला के assertions presentation में बन गई occurrence and rights and obligations. So whatever is disclosed in financial statements has in fact occurred. Say the notes to financial statements disclose certain event. Okay, they disclose that say a fire had occurred during the year gone by, and due to this so much damages had occurred to the company. So that event should occur. So whatever has been disclosed in the financial statements, that should have occurred. So whatever is disclosed in the notes to accounts, that should have occurred, and that should belong, since it should have occurred, it should belong to the company. Obviously event होना चाहिए और वो कंपनी में होना चाहिए, तभी तो उसका डिस्क्लोजर प्रॉपर होगा. Okay, so this is occurrence and rights and obligations. So अगर कोई इवेंट ऐसा है जिसमें कंपनी की कोई लाइबिलिटी है, तो उसमें वो लाइबिलिटी, उसकी ऑब्लिगेशन डिस्क्लोज होनी चाहिए. अगर कोई कंपनी का राइट है तो वो डिस्क्लोज होना चाहिए. सो दिस इज व्हाट a mixture of assertions contained in classes of transactions and in the account balances. So whatever is disclosed in the notes to accounts, whatever is disclosed in financial statements, that event should have occurred, and that event should have belonged to the company. And if it gives rise to some obligations, then it should be there, and if it gives rise to some rights, that should be there. So this is the assertion pertaining to occurrence and rights and obligations. Okay. And second is completeness. So completeness, students, again completeness is common. So you had to एक तो आपका काम आसान हो गया. One thing is made easy for you, that completeness is there in all three assertions, in all three categories of assertions. It is there in class of transactions, it is there in account balances, and it is there in presentation and disclosure. So whatever the meaning of completeness we have read in account balance, whatever the meaning of completeness we have read in class of transaction, the same meaning applies here also in assertions regarding presentation and disclosure. So what is the meaning of completeness in the context of presentation and disclosure? The meaning is that all disclosures that should have been included have been included. That all the necessary disclosures which should have been included in the financial statements have in fact been included. Nothing has been left out. So it just means in the context of disclosures that no disclosure is left out. All disclosures which were required to be made have in fact been made in the financial statements. Clear, students? Now, third assertion relating to presentation and disclosure is classification and understandability. Now, what is classification and understandability? It means that disclosure is given in such a manner that it is easy to understand, and if some presentation is required as per reporting framework, it is also presented in that manner. So presentation is also proper, and it is given in a manner that it is easy to understand. It can be easily understood. It can be clearly understood. There is no ambiguity. It can be clearly understood. Without any doubt, it should be clearly understood. Okay. Yes, Devender Singh, you are saying, why are you not telling meaning of assertion? Probably you have joined late. We have discussed about assertion at the beginning of lecture for first 15 minutes. For first 15 minutes, पहले 15 मिनट में ही हम assertion का मतलब बताते रहे हैं. You can rewind the video and see, and otherwise I will also explain when we come to the queries. And number 4 is accuracy and valuation. Accuracy and valuation. So all disclosures made are accurate and are made at appropriate amounts. So all disclosures made are accurate and are at appropriate amounts. So these are all different kind of assertions. These are all different kind of assertions which we have been understanding. So remember, students, that assertions relate to 3 type of things. Number 1, assertions relate to class of transactions and events. Number 2, assertions relate to account balances. Number 3, assertions relate to disclosures, assertions about presentation and disclosures. So within each category, there are different forms of assertions. Within each category, there are different form of assertions. So again, we shall be refreshing our memory कि हमने what we had learned about the different forms of assertions. So as far as class of transactions are concerned, there are 5 type of assertions. So remember, students, remember their names and understand their meaning. So what are 5 type of assertions? These are occurrence. Number 2 is completeness. Third is accuracy. Fourth is cutoff, and fifth is classification. And similarly, for account balances, 4 assertions are there. First assertion is existence. Second is rights and obligation. Third is completeness, and fourth is valuation and allocation. So again, I am repeating existence, rights and obligation, because when you think about assets, there would be rights. When you think about liabilities, there would be obligations. Okay. And third is completeness. Remember, completeness is there in all the 3 categories. Completeness is there in transactions also. Completeness is there in account balances also. And completeness is there in presentation and disclosure also. Okay. And for presentation and disclosure, there are 4 type of assertions. For presentation and disclosure, there are 4 type of assertions. What are 4 type of assertions? These assertions are: number one, occurrence and rights and obligation; number two is completeness; number three is classification and understandability, that all disclosures should be clearly understandable. These should not be uh, ambiguous. There should be no ambiguity about it. There should be no doubt about it. And number four is accuracy and evaluation. Whatever is disclosed, it is disclosed accurately and valued properly. Okay. So students, ये अभी आपको मॉड्यूल से पढ़ना पड़ेगा. अभी तो आपको यू हैव गॉट ओनली 15, 10, 20% अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ ऑल दिस. But when you would read it from your module, and when you would try to remember these terms, then your understanding would also be increased. Okay. So you can remember from this chart also. So as you can see, students, completeness is common in all three categories of assertions. In all three categories of assertion, completeness is common. Okay. And valuation is also common in presentation and disclosure, and in account balances also. And this assertion regarding presentation and disclosure is formed of occurrence plus rights and obligations, as I've been telling you. So clear, students? So students, there is an example given in your module. So say किसी कंपनी की फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट में, इन सम ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स, देयर इज कैश इन हैंड ऑफ ₹10,000. सो कैश बैलेंस 10,000 रुपए का रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहा है फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट से. फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट से कैश इन हैंड ₹10,000. देन व्हाट आर द assertions? So assertions are what the management intends to say about this. When financial statements reflect cash balance of 10,000, then yes, Devraj, module page number is 4.26, as is visible from the page which is open. So when cash balance of ₹10,000 is reflected, it means that firm concerned had ₹10,000 in hand. That as on say this balance was there existing on 31st March 23. So the firm in fact had cash of ₹10,000 as on 31st March 23 physically. So this is what the management is trying to say. So this is an explicit assertion. It is explicit in it. And number two is the cash was free and available for expenditure to the firm. Obviously, if 10,000 is available, it means that it is free for use of the firm in the coming year. Okay. And that books of accounts show cash balance of identical amount. So what is reflected in the financial statement, the same is there in the books of accounts. It is tallied. So assertion basically is is what the management is saying. Assertion basically is what the management is saying about the different things which are reflected in the financial statements. So it is just a statement by the management. It is just a representation by the management. Some of it is clearly understood and some of it is implied. Okay. And another example is given. Say this is reflected in the financial statements. So cost of plant and machinery is 2 lakh. Depreciation till the end of previous year. Say we are talking about financial year 22-23. Then depreciation till the end of 31st March 22 was 70,000 and depreciation for 22-23 is 13,000. So total depreciation is 83,000 and the balance is 1,17,000. So what are the assertions? So what the management is trying to say? So assertion is the firm owns the plant and machinery. So one of the assertion is that plant and machinery is owned by the firm. That firm has a right, it has a legal right to the plant and machinery because it is owned by it. Because when you own something, you obviously have, you get a right in it. And when you have a liability, then you are legally bound to pay. You have a legal obligation to pay. Okay. So one of the assertion is that firm owns the plant and machinery. The historical cost of plant and machinery is 2 lakh. This we can also derive. So what are assertions? All the things which you can derive, all the things which can be derived from the amount stated in financial statements are assertions. Okay. And third derivation could be the plant and machinery physically exists. तो अगर फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में मेरा प्लांट एंड मशीनरी का कुछ बैलेंस आ रहा है तो इट मींस दैट फिजिकली प्लांट एंड मशीनरी वाज प्रेजेंट on that date in the firm, in the company. It did exist physically. It is not a mere book entry that the machinery was in existence physically. So this is another kind of assertion, that asset is being utilized in the business of the company productively. Now this is a implied assertion. So since depreciation is being charged, it means that the value of asset is going down as the time passes by. As the time passes by, the value of asset is going down, the value of machinery is going down. So it is going down. Why? Because the machinery is being used for the purpose of business. It is being used for carrying out the business of the firm. So it is an implied assertion. And the total amount of depreciation is 83,000, out of which 13,000 relates to a current year and 70,000 is accumulated depreciation. So this is a express assertion which is derived from, which is present there, which is apparent there, which we can see from just plain reading. उस पे कोई दिमाग पे जोर डालने की जरूरत नहीं है. Okay. So the amount of depreciation has been calculated on recognized basis. That depreciation has been calculated according to an appropriate method, and the amount of depreciation calculated is also correct. Okay. So therefore, we know that some assertions are implied in financial statements. So assertions are generally implied and not specifically spelled out. So most of the assertions can be implied. Okay. So another example is given, like secured loans आपके फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में 4 लाख का आ रहा है. Okay, but the description doesn't give us a complete picture. We do not know who is the किस बैंक से लोन लिया and what was the security provided. If something is written in bracket that this loan pertains to, say, a car loan taken from XYZ bank against security of car or some other thing, so it gives a complete picture. So then this type of, then if it is written here that a loan has been taken from XYZ bank, it would be an example of explicit assertion which is clearly written. And what is the security provided? If that is also given there, then it is again an example of explicit assertion. So these kind of assertions are known as explicit assertions, which are clearly stated, in financial statements. The readers need not derive any meaning, any implied meaning from these statements. These are called as explicit assertions. And what is not clearly stated, which needs to be derived, these are known as implicit assertions. Okay, students. So you can also say that there are negative assertions and or positive assertions also. Like if there is clearly stated in the financial statements that there is no contingent liability, then it would be a negative assertion. That the financial statements clearly state that there are no contingent liabilities. So although there are no contingent liabilities, but the financial statements are making clear this fact. So they would be saying that there are no contingent liabilities. So it is an example of negative assertion. And suppose another thing is given, suppose आपकी बैलेंस शीट में बिल्डिंग आ ही नहीं रही, the company has taken premises on rent, there is no building in the financial statements, and nothing is disclosed in the financial statements relating to it. Okay, so it is an implied assertion. So the person who is reading the statements, who is reading the financial statements, he would imply that there is no building in the financial statements. So it is an example of implied assertion which is negative in nature. So it is an example of implied assertion which is negative in nature. So example of implied negative assertion. So clear, students? So students, एक बार इसको जल्दी से sum up कर लेते हैं. And Devinder Singh, you also listen carefully now, because now I am also again trying to summarize the meaning of assertions. So since you were not probably earlier there, so now listen carefully if you want to understand. So everything in financial statements, whether it is reflected in profit and loss or whether it is reflected in balance sheet, it is an assertion of some kind. Assertion means to say something with belief. Assertion is derived from the word to assert. So when I assert something, I am saying this with some belief, because I believe that what I am saying is true, is valid. So अगर कंपनी, अगर मैनेजमेंट फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में सेल्स दिखा रही है 100 करोड़ रुपए की, तो इसका मतलब है मैनेजमेंट बिलीव करती है कि ये 100 करोड़ रुपए की सेल्स एक्चुअल में हुई हैं. सो इट इज एन असर्शन. तो असर्शन, you have to understand, is always made by management. जो भी बैलेंस शीट या प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस में रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा है वो मैनेजमेंट कह रही है. दैट इज सेड बाय मैनेजमेंट, दैट इज बिलीव्ड बाय मैनेजमेंट. सो ऑल थिंग्स, whether it is sales, whether these are purchases, whether these are expenses, whether these are other items of income, all these are assertions, because these are representations by management. These are statements by management which say something. If in the financial statement say purchases are of 25 lakhs, it means that management is saying, management is asserting that purchases of 25 lakhs have in fact been made by the company. So remember that assertions are representations by management. It is the first part. And second part is, these are embodied in financial statements. Now, what does embodied in financial statement mean? It means these are contained in financial statements. It means these are present in financial statements. So assertions are representations by management which are contained in financial statements, and which may be explicit or otherwise, like what we have been telling right now, what we have been discussing right now, that these may be clearly stated in financial statements or these may be derived from it. And these are used by the auditor to identify potential misstatements which can occur. So there are 4 parts to understanding meaning of assertions. There are 4 parts to understanding meaning of assertion. One is, these are representations by management. Number 2 is, these can be explicit or implicit. Explicit means clearly stated. Implicit means these need to be derived. And number 3 is, these are embodied in financial statements. These are contained in financial statements. And last part is, these are used by the auditor. Now the auditor does not make use of assertions. Students, again I am repeating it. Auditor does not make assertions, but auditor uses assertions. So remember this. Auditor does not make assertions. He uses the assertions to do what? To identify potential misstatements in the financial statements, to find out errors or frauds in the financial statements, to dig out misstatements in the financial statements. So the auditor is testing various assertions which are there in financial statements, and by testing such assertions he obtains audit evidence. So that is the importance of assertions. That is the meaning of assertions. That is the significance of assertions. Okay. Yes, students, I hope you have understood now meaning of assertions. Yes, Devender Singh, you should read from your module. I have explained 2, 3 times. Now, rather 4 times I have explained. It would be better for you to read from your module. Assertion and embodied are not same. Assertion is the term. Assertion is the term, and embodied mean present. Assertion and embodied are not same. Your understanding is not up to mark. You should read from your module after finishing this lecture. Okay, students. So guys, we shall take a short break of 5 minutes, and we'll come back after 5 minutes. So break of 5 minutes, students. Yes. So welcome back guys. सो स्टूडेंट्स, आप में से कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं कि दोबारा हिंदी में थोड़ा सा समराइज कर दें, तो इसको। सो जो स्टूडेंट साउथ इंडिया से है, द स्टूडेंट्स हु आर फ्रॉम साउथ इंडिया, आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट देम टू कीप पेशेंस फॉर देयर fellow guys from North India who are not comfortable with English. एंड सो इसको शॉर्टली स्टूडेंट्स, मैं इसको दो लाइन में आपको हिंदी में बता देता हूँ। एसर्शंस का मतलब, मोहम्मद इरफान लिख रहे हैं, एसर्शंस का मतलब हिंदी में बताएं। एंड कुलदीप गुप्ता, योर क्वेश्चन आल्सो आई विल आंसर। सो एसर्शंस का मतलब हिंदी में ये है, आपको इतना स्टूडेंट्स अंडरस्टैंड करना है कि जो कुछ फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में आपको दिख रहा है, जो बैलेंस शीट में दिख रहा है, जो प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस में दिख रहा है, या जो उससे आप समझ रहे हैं, वो सब चीजें एसर्शंस हैं। लेकिन ये एसर्शंस जो हैं, ये मैनेजमेंट के द्वारा दी गई रिप्रेजेंटेशंस हैं, क्योंकि फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स मैनेजमेंट के द्वारा ही बनाई जाती हैं। फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स बनाने की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, उसकी जिम्मेवारी मैनेजमेंट की है। सो एसर्शंस क्या है? ये एक रिप्रेजेंटेशंस हैं जो मैनेजमेंट के द्वारा दी जाती हैं, लेकिन जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स के अंदर ही हैं, ये कोई अलग से नहीं दी जाती। ये फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में एम्बॉडीड हैं। एम्बॉडीड का मतलब क्या है? फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में प्रेजेंट हैं, चाहे ये एक्सप्लिसिट हो चाहे ये इम्प्लिसिट हो। एक्सप्लिसिट का मतलब है जो क्लियरली लिखी गई है, और इम्प्लिसिट का मतलब है जो क्लियरली लिखी नहीं गई है लेकिन जो समझी जा सकती है। जैसे कि हमने सिक्योर्ड लोन के एग्जांपल में देखा कि अगर बैलेंस शीट में लिखा हुआ है सिक्योर्ड लोन 4 लाख रुपए, तो इससे तो मेरे को केवल इतना समझ में आ रहा है कि कंपनी ने कोई सिक्योर्ड लोन 4 लाख रुपए का लिया हुआ है। लेकिन अगर उसके साथ ये भी लिखा हुआ है कि सिक्योर्ड लोन कहां से लिया हुआ है, कौन से बैंक से लिया हुआ है, किस सिक्योरिटी के अगेंस्ट लिया हुआ है, तो ये सब एक्सप्लिसिट असर्शन है। अगर लिखा हुआ है तो, और अगर कुछ नहीं लिखा हुआ तो उसका जो मैं मीनिंग निकाल रहा हूं वो इम्प्लिसिट असर्शन है। वो इम्प्लिसिट असर्शन है। जैसे अगर फिक्स्ड एसेट्स में डेप्रिसिएशन माइनस करके नेट बैलेंस निकाला हुआ है, तो ये इम्प्लिसिट असर्शन है मैनेजमेंट की तरफ से कि प्लांट एंड मशीनरी को कंपनी के काम के लिए यूज किया गया, बिजनेस के काम के लिए यूज किया गया, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एक्टिविटी के लिए यूज किया गया, प्रोडक्शन के लिए यूज किया गया। सो एसर्शन समझते हुए आपको ये चीज ध्यान में रखनी है कि दीज आर रिप्रेजेंटेशंस बाय मैनेजमेंट। ये मैनेजमेंट द्वारा की गई रिप्रेजेंटेशन है जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में है, और ऑडिटर इनको यूज करता है किस काम के लिए? टू ट्रैक, टू आइडेंटिफाई पोटेंशियल मिस स्टेटमेंट्स। जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट में मिस स्टेटमेंट्स, गलतियां, एरर, फ्रॉड हो सकते हैं, उसको ढूंढने के लिए यूज करता है। इन टर्म्स को, इन बातों को वो देखता है, वो एसर्शंस हैं। तो एसर्शंस आर रिप्रेजेंटेशंस बाय मैनेजमेंट, but these are used by the auditor, these are not made by the management. Clear? These can be explicit or implicit. Explicit का मतलब है clearly stated, these can be clearly stated, or these can be derived also, or whatever is stated in financial statements assertions can be derived from this also. Yes, and Kuldeep Gupta, your question is what you are saying, Kuldeep Gupta? You are saying is, can assertions be said as assumption based on facts? This is another way of stating. These are not as such assumptions, you can say. Facts are stated in financial statements, but these are means of understanding facts. You can say it that way. So Kuldeep Gupta, is the point clear to you? These are not assumptions. These are methods, these are ways, these are means of understanding the facts which are stated in financial statements. So assumptions would not be a proper word to use, Kuldeep Gupta. Hope it is clear to you. Yes, Kuldeep Gupta, confirm the point is clear to you. So students, now I have explained in Hindi also. Now your job starts. आपको इसको अच्छी तरह से इस डेफिनेशन को लर्न करना है. You have to learn the definition, all the 4 points. You have to remember all the names of assertions. You have to remember the meaning of all the assertions, and you have to understand the difference between different types of assertions. Okay. So students, at the beginning, we had understood, at the beginning of this chapter today, we had understood what the audit evidence is all about. What the audit evidence is all about. So students, I had told you that we have been reading from chapter 1 that auditor has to give his opinion. So he gives his opinion in the form of audit report. By means of audit report, his opinion is contained in audit report. Now, how is his opinion is arrived at? He bases his opinion on audit evidence. So when we say that auditor has that somebody is auditing the accounts, somebody is auditing the financial statements. So it means he is mostly doing the work of obtaining audit evidence. Most of the time he is obtaining audit evidence. He is performing, he is employing audit procedures to obtain audit evidence. So क्योंकि audit evidence उसके पास होगा, तो उसके बेस पे he would be forming his opinion. Okay. So therefore, here we come to the meaning and definition of audit evidence as per SA 500. So meaning of audit evidence is, it is the information used by the auditor in arriving at conclusions on which auditor opinion is based. So again, students, I had told you at the beginning that audit evidence is the information used by the auditor in arriving at what conclusions on the basis of which his opinion is based. So during the process of audit, what he would be gathering information. So on the basis of this information, he would be ultimately drawing his conclusions. He would be arriving at some definite conclusions, and conclusions would lead him to ultimately to formation of opinion. So first step is obtaining information, and second step is drawing of conclusion, and third step is formation of opinion. So you can break it that way. So you have to remember the definition of audit evidence by understanding it, by understanding its meaning. So audit evidence is the information used by the auditor in arriving at conclusions on which auditor's opinion is based. So audit evidence includes what? It includes both the things. It includes information contained in accounting records and as well as other information. So what is the information contained in accounting records? आप किसी कोई बैलेंस शीट आपके सामने है स्टूडेंट्स, you are auditing those financial statements. Say you have gone through, you have seen the purchase bills, you have seen the expenses bills, you have seen the vouchers, or you have seen the sales invoices. So all the information, all the evidence which you are getting is derived from the accounting records. It is derived from the information contained in financial statements which is supported by accounting records. So it is derived from books of accounts or other documents which are supporting it. So how books of accounts are prepared? These are prepared on the basis of raw data, on the basis of source data, on the basis of purchase bills, on the basis of expenses bills, on the basis of vouchers, on the basis of sales invoices. So it is on these bases that entries are made in the books of accounts. So this is the information contained in accounting records. So this is the information contained in accounting records. So all information which is contained in cash book, journal, ledger, or all supporting documents like purchase bills, sale bills, expenses vouchers, stock records, all this is information contained in accounting records. But you have to remember that audit evidence not only includes information contained in accounting records, but also other information. So it contains not only information contained in accounting records, plus other information also. Now, what is this other information? So what is this other information, students? So information, students, which is not directly contained in accounting records. Say like the auditor is referring to the minutes of the board meetings. So it is not an accounting record per se, but he is getting the evidence from the record of proceedings of board meeting. He is referring to minutes of the board meetings. So this is an example of other information. So this is an example of other information, like say when the auditor sends external confirmation requests for trade receivables, then although he has chosen that data from accounting records, but the process of sending the external confirmation request and evaluating the response obtained from the party does not form part of that accounting record. So he is relying upon other information. Yeah, तो सपोज उसने ऑडिटर ने किसी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को वेरीफाई करने के लिए कि कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में जो लिखा गया है क्या ये वही कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है, उसके लिए थर्ड पार्टी को रिक्वेस्ट भेजी. तो जो वो रिक्वेस्ट उसने भेजी और जो उस पार्टी का रिस्पॉन्स आया वो अकाउंटिंग रिकॉर्ड से तो नहीं आया, कंपनी के अकाउंटिंग रिकॉर्ड से नहीं आया. इट इज एन अदर इंफॉर्मेशन। ओके, या अगर ऑडिटर कुछ कंपनी का जो इंटरनल कंट्रोल जब वो स्टडी कर रहा है, व्हेन ही इज स्टडिंग द इंटरनल कंट्रोल्स ऑफ द कंपनी, so he is reading about the procedures and the policies laid down by the company. He is reading about the manuals, internal control manuals, that how the company is operating, what are its systems. So these internal control manuals, these are also not part of accounting record, but the auditor is um, understanding control systems, and he is also obtaining evidence by studying those, by inspecting those records. So he is getting the evidence, he is using the information from records which are not accounting records. Okay, so therefore students, you have to understand that uh, that audit evidence includes information not only from the accounting records but also from other areas. So this is also one of the key points which you have to remember. कभी कभी इसमें हम students we make mistakes दैट कि जो इंफॉर्मेशन अकाउंटिंग रिकॉर्ड से कनेक्टेड नहीं है वो ऑडिट एविडेंस नहीं होगी, ऐसा नहीं है। अदर एरिया से भी, नॉन अकाउंटिंग एरिया से भी जो इंफॉर्मेशन है वो भी ऑडिट एविडेंस के अंदर ही आती है। इट फॉल्स इन द विद इन द मीनिंग ऑफ ऑडिट एविडेंस। क्लियर स्टूडेंट्स? सो आपको इसमें जो है ऑडिट एविडेंस का डेफिनेशन और इसकी मीनिंग स्टूडेंट्स यू हैव टू रिमेंबर इट क्लियरली। सो इंफॉर्मेशन कंटेन्ड इन अकाउंटिंग रिकॉर्ड्स, व्हाट इज द इंफॉर्मेशन कंटेन्ड इन अकाउंटिंग रिकॉर्ड्स? अकाउंटिंग रिकॉर्ड्स इंक्लूड रिकॉर्ड्स ऑफ accounting entries. Okay, so what are records of accounting entries? Books of accounts, cash book, ledger, journal, these are all accounting records. Invoices, so the basis on which entries are made in books of accounts, these also fall within the meaning of information from accounting records. Okay, invoices, contracts, agreements which are entered into by the party. Say I am getting job work done from a third party, so I have entered into agreement with that third party. I have entered into a contract with third party that you would do this kind of work and I would make payment to you on these terms. So when you would perform my work within this time according to these specifications, then these type of payments would be made by me, by the company to you. Okay, so agreements, contracts, these are all accounting records. So understand, these are all accounting records. So journal and subsidiary ledgers, all journal ledger, all main ledgers, subsidiary ledgers. So like if there is separate purchase ledgers, okay, separate sales ledgers, subsidiary books, you understand, and journal entries, journals. So all books of accounts, basically you understand, cash book, bank book, book, journal ledger, all books of accounts maintained in whichever form, कोई भी उसका नाम हो, whatever its nomenclature is, these fall within the meaning of accounting records. Okay, and records such as worksheets and spreadsheets, supporting cost allocations, computations, reconciliation, and disclosures. Okay, so these are say the company is valuing its inventories, so it it has made detailed calculations, like which method it has applied in calculating its inventories, how various items inventories have been valued, like how work in progress has been valued, what is the basis of it, कितना उसमें रॉ मटेरियल कॉस्ट, कितनी लेबर कॉस्ट ली है, कितनी परसेंटेज ली है। तो वो जो कैलकुलेशंस हैं जो कि फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में जो अमाउंट है उनको सपोर्ट करती हैं, वो भी अकाउंटिंग रिकॉर्ड्स का पार्ट है। दैट इज आल्सो पार्ट ऑफ अकाउंटिंग रिकॉर्ड्स। ओके, सो अंडरस्टैंड स्टूडेंट्स। So account information contained in accounting records and information and other information, the information which is not contained in accounting records, so other information that authenticates the accounting records and supports the rationale behind the true and fair presentation of the financial statements, so which is not directly contained in accounting records, but it somehow um, supports the accounting records. Okay, so this type of information is called as other information, like minutes of the meeting. I've given you example of board meeting, like the auditor is referring to the record of the proceedings of the meeting. So what are minutes? Minutes are the records of the proceedings. जो जो मीटिंग में होता है उसको एक मिनट बुक में लिख लिया जाता है ताकि वो रिकॉर्ड रहे, so that it remains a record that what happened at the meeting, what was the agenda of the meeting, what were the decisions taken at the meeting. So these are all referred to as the minutes of the meeting. These are referred to as minutes of meeting. Written confirmations from trade receivables and trade payables. Okay, so this I have already explained to you. Like I am sending for confirmation request for to certain trade receivables and trade payables. So these are, I am asking for confirmations from them. So the information is coming out now from me to me from a third party. Now it is not, I am not using, I am not getting this information from the accounting records of the company. So I have made external confirmation request to a third party for confirming something. It may be a balance, it may be the terms of contract. So these fall within the meaning of other information. Okay, and third is manuals containing details of internal control. This we have discussed already, that there are detailed documentation of company's internal control system, how the company's systems are operated, what are its procedures, and what are different steps to be taken by employees in different situations for different flow of transactions. So when the auditor reads such information, when the auditor inspects such manuals, he goes through such manuals, then he is relying upon other information. But because why? Because such type of information does not directly form part of accounting records. Okay. So type of audit evidence, students. Now we come to types of audit evidence. So audit evidence कितने types का होता है? This we shall consider. So it basically falls in two categories, depending upon nature, depending upon source. Nature का मतलब है कि वो audit evidence कैसा है, whether it is visual, it is oral or documentary. Visual means which is seen by the auditor. And oral means like when he is discussing something or seeking information orally. And documentary means written, which is there in written form. So depending upon nature, audit evidence is of three types: visual, oral, and documentary. So visual, when the auditor is seeing, say, some process being performed, so it is an example of visual evidence. And oral means when you are discussing something with the staff in a general way, or when you are seeking some inquiry specifically, but which is not written, so that is oral. And documentary means when you are inspecting some documents and you obtain copy of the same, so that evidence is in your hands, it is in the shape of document. Okay, so like you um, like some copy of invoice, that is a documentary evidence for you. Copy of any agreement, copy of an expenditure bill is a documentary evidence. Copy of any agreement entered with a job worker, so you get copy of the same and put it in your file, so that is a documentary evidence. So depending upon nature, audit evidence is of three types: visual, oral, and documentary. Okay, so no confusion, very simple: visual, oral, and documentary. And depending upon source, another category is depending upon source. Now this evidence can be internal or it can be external. So what is internal evidence, what is external evidence? Internal evidence is what is generated within the company. So when some document is generated, when some evidence, when some information is generated from within the company and the auditor is relying upon that, it is known as internal evidence. Okay. And external evidence is evidence which is coming from outside, evidence which comes from outside of the company. So when the auditor is using some evidence which is the source of which is outside the company, so it is an external evidence. So clear guys? So examples like, so another important thing students you have to remember, that bulk of the evidence, most of the evidence which the auditor gets during the course of audit is internal in nature. वो सारा का सारा ज्यादा उसमें इंटरनल एविडेंस ऑडिटर को मिलता है, एक्सटर्नल एविडेंस मिलता है लेकिन वो कम है, उसकी क्वांटिटी कम है. सो टेल मी स्टूडेंट्स, सेल इनवॉइस क्या वो इंटरनल एविडेंस है या एक्सटर्नल एविडेंस है? सो आप किसी कंपनी के ऑडिटर हैं एंड sales invoice, you are verifying sales invoice generated by the company, so it is what it is an internal evidence because it is generated by the company. On the other hand, purchase invoice, it is coming from the third party, किसी supplier ने bill दिया आपको, it is an external evidence. Although it is there in the books of the company, but it is source of it is third party, it is coming from a third party, so it is an external evidence. Similarly, आपने goods माल भेजे, goods फैक्ट्री से डिस्पैच किए, so probably what are the transportation details? ओके अगर आपके ही कंपनी के ट्रांसपोर्टेशन से माल गया है, so again it is an internal evidence. ओके। और अगर कंपनी ने कोई डेबिट नोट किसी पार्टी पे रेज किया या क्रेडिट नोट रेज किया, अगर इफ द कंपनी इज रेजिंग, so then it is an internal evidence. And all the expenses bills which are coming to the company, all the purchase bills which are coming to the company, and all the debit and credit notes which are coming to the company from third parties, these are external evidence. Similarly, all the confirmations. So if the auditor is sending out confirmations to third parties and the response to those confirmations is obtained, so that evidence which the auditor is getting is also external in nature, because it is coming from third parties. So clear, students? Fairly simple. So students, therefore you have to understand that external evidence is generally more reliable than internal evidence. But it doesn't mean that internal evidence is not to be relied. Opposite of it is not to be true. So I have told you at the beginning that most of the evidence, bulk of the evidence which the auditor gets during the course of audit is internal in nature. So therefore, and and in fact, such evidence can be relied, and it is perfectly reliable. It can be relied upon, and it is relied also. But as far as degree of reliability is concerned, obviously the something which is coming from outside of the company, from an independent source, obviously its degree of reliance is more. So that you have to understand. Okay, but it can also happen sometimes, students, that even external evidence which is coming from a outside source, that even that may not be reliable, because say the independence of that party may itself be in a doubt. So that party could also be engaged in some unscrupulous things. So in that case also, in that case also, external evidence may not be reliable. That third party may have already colluded with the company. So in that case, even the evidence coming from third party would not also be reliable. So it depends upon circumstances. It depends upon facts. Okay, so like an example is given. So if there is some related party, से अगर दो कंपनीज हैं, दोनों में डायरेक्टर्स कॉमन है और दूसरी कंपनी रिलेटेड पार्टी है, ओके, तो उससे कोई परचेज हो रही है, ऑल दो द एविडेंस इज कमिंग फ्रॉम द थर्ड पार्टी, लेकिन एक बार तो ऑडिटर अलर्ट रहेगा ना कि ये रिलेटेड पार्टी है, ऑल दो द एविडेंस इज कमिंग फ्रॉम, it is not coming internally from the company, it is coming externally from another company, but this company is related to the company which we are auditing. So auditor, it doesn't mean that auditor would discard that evidence. It only means that auditor would remain alert, he would remain vigilant. So that is the purpose. Okay, students. So for today, I think this much would be sufficient. So it is better, students, if you read about this general meaning of audit evidence, types of audit evidence, depending upon its nature and depending upon its source, and also in detail about assertions. So you read all these topics from your module, from regarding assertions and general meaning of audit evidence and its type. So we take your queries now. What are your queries? Yes, Suman Goel, you are saying which tests are done to find misstatements in financial statements, not assertions. We are reading about assertions related tests only. So Suman, probably you are talking about how to find out misstatements in financial statements that the auditor finds out by performing different procedures, which we shall be reading, and by performing those procedures, the auditors obtains audit evidence. The auditor tests various assertions. Okay. So like Suman, I am giving you example of sending confirmation to third parties. So the auditor is sending external confirmation request to a third party. So it is a procedure. Okay. So what assertion the auditor is testing in this procedure? He is testing assertion of existence. So he is testing that whether at the first place the party exists or not. अगर पार्टी ऑडिटर ने उसको मेल की, उसको चिट्ठी लिखी और उसका रिस्पॉन्स आ गया, so the auditor would be getting comfort that the party in fact exists. Okay, so the auditor uses the procedures, audit procedures, to obtain audit evidence, and during performance of these procedures, auditor tests, auditor checks, auditor verifies various assertions. Like I have given you one example of existence assertion. Jab when the auditor is sending external confirmation request, he is satisfying himself about the existence of that party. Okay. Yes, Santosh, how to write in examination? So, Santosh, we shall be discussing about this thing in detail by taking some practical questions. So I'll make it sure when Rajiv sir come next time, we'll take some practical questions of the type which are coming in your exams, and we shall make sure that you understand how to write answers to descriptive type questions. So probably next time, say even it could be day after tomorrow also, we shall be devoting some time to this aspect, that how to write answers to descriptive type questions. Yes, Swati, if auditor has been appointed for related services engagement, then assertions are said to be influenced by the auditor. No, Swati, it is the assertions can't be. Remember, whatever be the engagement, first of all, we are considering assertions in the context of audit. And number two, auditor verifies assertions. He does not influence, he verifies assertions. He tests those assertions कि जो मैनेजमेंट ने लिखा है मैं उसको टेस्ट कर रहा हूं कि मैनेजमेंट ठीक कह रही है कि नहीं कह रही. इतना ही दिस इज द मीनिंग ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग एसर्शंस, कि एसर्शंस जो मैनेजमेंट असर्ट कर रही है मैं उसको अपने डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट के हिसाब से उसको वेरीफाई कर रहा हूं, मैं उसको डिफरेंट एंगल से उसको चेक कर रहा हूं. सो दैट आर डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स ऑफ एसर्शंस. Yes, Srinivasan, you are saying class of transaction is related to P&L. अकाउंट बैलेंस रिलेटेड टू बैलेंस शीट, यस परफेक्टली राइट श्रीनिवासन, परफेक्टली राइस राइट। शिवम गौतम, कंप्लीटनेस एंड एक्यूरेसी डिफरेंस। कंप्लीटनेस शिवम, कंप्लीटनेस का मतलब है जो चीजें से बैलेंस शीट या प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस लॉस में रिकॉर्ड होनी चाहिए थी उस आइटम के बारे में, वो सारी की सारी रिकॉर्ड हो गई हैं, कोई छूट तो नहीं गई। और एक्यूरेट का मतलब है कि जो भी रिकॉर्डेड है वो करेक्ट है। एक्यूरेसी इज नॉट रिलेटेड टू कंप्लीटनेस, completeness is something bigger than accuracy. When we talk about accuracy, we are seeing what is present before us, what is recorded in the financial statements. Whereas in completeness, we see beyond, we see whatever was required to be recorded, whether it has been recorded or not. Say जैसे मैंने I had given you example of say sales, मैंने आपको स्टार्टिंग में सेल्स का एग्जांपल दिया था कि ईयर एंड में हो सकता है कुछ लास्ट डेट को कुछ गुड्स जो है कंपनी के डिस्पैच हो गए हो, लेकिन उसका इनवॉइस नहीं बना। जब डिस्पैच हो गए तो इनवॉइस भी बनना चाहिए, क्योंकि उसका द मोमेंट गुड्स आर डिस्पैच द प्रॉपर्टी इज ट्रांसफर्ड, द रिस्क इन द प्रॉपर्टी इज ट्रांसफर्ड टू द बायर। सो उसका इनवॉइस भी बनना चाहिए, उसको सेल में बुक होना चाहिए। डिस्पैच माल हो गया तो स्टॉक रिकॉर्ड से तो माइनस हो गया मेरे, लेकिन सेल में एंटर नहीं हुआ। सो देयरफॉर all the sales in this case which should have been recorded, whether these have been recorded or not, this refers to completeness। और एक्यूरेसी का मतलब है कि जो भी ऑलरेडी रिकॉर्डेड है वो करेक्टली रिकॉर्ड है कि नहीं। क्लियर शिवम गौतम? Yes, Meenakshi, you are saying existence is physical verification of assets and liabilities. Not physical verification. You can say that 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 asset exists. If it is in a tangible form, then it is physical existence, or otherwise in respect of other assets, these should exist. These should have existed. ये सिर्फ हवा में ही नहीं है, these should not be fake. Okay. Yes, Rito Banerjee, all these assertions are implied. Yes, many of the assertions are implied assertions. Allocation again, Bhavika. Allocate means से आप जैसे आप इन्वेंट्री की वैल्यूएशन कर रहे हैं, आप वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस की वैल्यूएशन कर रहे हैं इन्वेंट्री के अंदर, तो उसमें आप डिफरेंट एक्सपेंसेस को जो कंपनी के हैं, लेबर एक्सपेंसेस, उसको वेजेस को एलोकेट कैसे करेंगे कि जहां तक जो वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस की स्टेज है उसमें उसका कितना परसेंटेज टोटल लेबर एक्सपेंसेस का इसमें आना चाहिए वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस में। सो दिस इज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ एलोकेशन। और यहां जब हम डेप्रिसिएशन चार्ज करते हैं, सो दिस इज आल्सो एन एग्जांपल ऑफ एलोकेशन। ओके, यस, असर्शंस मैं पहले ही बता चुका हूं कई बार स्टूडेंट्स। Yes, cut off. Cut off means, Vaishali, cut off means that the transaction is recorded in correct accounting period. जैसे अगर कोई बिल 31 मार्च 23 का है, परचेज आपके पास 31 मार्च 23 की फैक्ट्री में आ गई और परचेज इनवॉइस भी 31 मार्च 23 का है, तो वो 31 मार्च 23 को ही अकाउंट फॉर हो गया आपके परचेज अकाउंट में। सो इट इज accounted for in correct accounting period. Okay. Yes, Manohar Yadav, how assertions are different from financial statements? Yes, so assertions are part of financial statements. यही तो हम बात कह रहे हैं। फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स तो एक टोटल हो गई, एक बैलेंस शीट को अपने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बोल दिया, प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस को अपने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बोल दिया, जो उसके अंदर सब कुछ है वो मैनेजमेंट से द्वारा की गई असर्शन है, वो मैनेजमेंट ने कहा हुआ है हर एक चीज के बारे में, उसको हम कह रहे हैं कि मैनेजमेंट असर्ट कर रही है, वही असर्शन है। इज एज सिंपल एज दैट। गाइस आप इतना एक सिंपल सी बातें आप कितनी बार समझोगे बॉस। ये सोप मनोवर इट इज क्लियर टू यू। Yes, Ritu, you have to remember the points given in assertions. You have to remember all the names, three categories, all the names of assertions. And you need to apply these in situations also. कि इसमें कौन सी assertion effect हो रही है. Okay. Srinivasan, yes, can you please mention the account balance assertion for 6 point explained in example of plant? So which assertion you are talking about, Srinivasan? Do give me page number. Yes, Devender Singh, what is explicit assertions? I have already explained. Explicit, which is clearly stated. जो कि which is not hidden, which is clearly stated in financial statements. जैसे कि अगर secured loan में लेंडर का नाम लिखा है तो मेरे को पता है कि इस बैंक ने लोन दिया हुआ है 4 लाख का. So it is an explicit assertion for me. It is stated there, it is clear, it is stated there. So such kind of assertions are explicit assertions. Yes, Parth Rana, heightened line. Parth Rana, you are probably saying about the line on assertions relating to class of transactions and events. So you have to understand that assertions relate to three categories. Number one, assertions related to transactions or class of transactions and events, account balances and disclosures. So transactions are, you can understand, P&L items, profit and loss items. So this simple way you can understand. As Devinder Singh, what is the meaning of encountered? Encountered का मतलब है to come across, कि ऑडिट करते समय मेरे को कोई चीज दिखना. I come across that thing. So this is the meaning of encounter. Then like doing audit, I encountered some errors. I came across. Yes, Kuldeep Gupta, I have already answered your question. Yes, Darshana, explain negative assertion once more. Negative assertions जो कि से हमने एग्जांपल किया था कि अगर किसी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट में ये लिखा हुआ है कि देयर इज नो कॉन्टिजेंट लायबिलिटी, सो द मैनेजमेंट इज इटसेल्फ सेइंग, so since not is there, since the management is denying this fact, so it is a negative assertion. Okay, so it is a negative and explicit assertion. It is although negative, but it is stated clearly. So it is a negative explicit assertion. It is explicit assertion, but negative in nature. But it is not. It is only explained by way of example. It is not that it is required to be stated always. Yes, Meenakshi, your answer is also covered by this. Basav Raju KS. Yes, what is abbreviation of SA? My God, Basu, are you joining for the first time? SA means standards on auditing. We have been harping about this since chapter 1. So you go back and see previous videos, guys. Where are you, Basav Raju? SA means standards on auditing. Yes, Priyanka Pandey, elements or particulars of financial statements. अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए प्रियंका आप कुछ भी समझ सकते हैं, जो मैंने आपको अंडरस्टैंडिंग दी है आप उसको समझे. No, Meenakshi, it is not necessary to write negative assertion. As I have explained to you, it has just been explained to you for helping you understand meaning of negative assertion कि ये भी हो सकता है. It is not necessary to say negative, to state negative assertion. Yes, Devaraj, audit evidence, all types of audit evidence is important, but anyway documentary audit evidence is always more important. जो लिखा हुआ है that is always more important, but it doesn't mean that all other evidence is of no use. It is also of use, but the point is relating to degree of importance, degree of reliability. So whatever is in paper form, whatever can be documented, whatever is in electronic form, it is more reliable. नेगेटिव असर्शन मैं पहले भी बता चुका हूं. Yes, Srinivasan, again positive assertion express, all the examples are there in your book. Yes, Devender Singh, what is the difference between bills and vouchers? Yes. So bills are Devender Singh, are more detailed sort of evidence. See, and the vouchers, we generally use the term voucher to when we make some payment, or when something is received. It is of a general type. But bill, you understand, purchase bills, sale bills, expenses bills, these give all detailed kind of information. So voucher is a sense of sort of general term, you can say. Voucher is a general term, you can say. Bill is a more specific, but both are evidence in their own way. Okay. Yes, Muhammad Aslam, all these tests we shall be doing, Muhammad Aslam. Allocation मैं बता चुका हूँ. Students, again the queries are coming. Yes, Devender Singh, weightage of chapter, this you can see from the website. But I tell you that this is one of the lengthiest chapter, and obviously you should be getting about not exactly marks. It should have 10-15% weightage, I think. But it's better you check out from website. I am not sure. You can check out from website, but obviously if you are done with this chapter, you are going to get about 10, 12 marks paper from this chapter. होमवर्क तो असलम मैंने आपको बता दिया है. आप assertions और ऑडिट एविडेंस का मीनिंग और डेफिनेशन पढ़ के आए. यस, देवेंद्र सिंह, ICA provides model papers and it also provides sample answers. So what happens is that before exams, before 2-3 months, you would be given a RTP. It is called a revisionary test paper. So it is a paper, and answers also provided. Then institute also holds mock test papers. So say exams are in May, then in April institute would be holding a mock test paper. where you can sit in the exam virtually, or you can contact the branch and sit in physically. And the second, in month of April, in month of March, they would be holding first mock test, and in the month of April also they would be holding second mock test for all the papers. Yes, Mohammed, your messages are visible. You are saying OCACC. This is a way of remembering, Mohammed. This is a this is a way of remembering. So I have told you I have told you the way to remember it. Yes, Devinder, I have answered all your questions. Probably there is some time lag. Yes, Rahul Patel, you are saying uh, how external evidence is different from evidence not obtained by accounting records. Yes, external evidence, like, say if I am getting some information obtained from third party, say say if I am getting purchase bill from a third party, so although it is external evidence, क्योंकि वो कंपनी के बाहर से आ रहा है, but it is contained in the accounting records. As far as it's it's whether it is concerned in accounting records or not, it is there in the accounting records. The information the auditor is getting from the accounting records, but the source of purchase bill is external to the company. It is coming from outside, it is coming from a third party जो माल भेज रहा है. Okay, but as far as audit evidence is concerned, whether it forms part of accounting records or it forms part of other information, so it forms part of accounting records. Okay. Yes, Srinivasan, you are saying give examples of positive assertions. So positive assertion is what is there. So I'll again take up with an example in next class. Meenakshi, you are saying weightage is not uploaded for May 24. I think it should have been uploaded. I'll check it up and revert back to you. It should have been uploaded. Otherwise, you can raise this question with Rajiv sir when he comes. So he would be in a better position to answer this. Okay, so students, it is over for today. So see you on Friday. Thank you so much.